Since 1994, the Arts Commission has used Young Artists at Work, or YAAW, to offer unique summer apprenticeships to young, aspiring artists around Toledo, Ohio. Teaching diversity, creativity, and job skills, YAAW apprentices get hands-on experience making public murals, saleable artwork, and pretty much anything awesome that you'd want to learn as a young artist. Overall, YAAW encourages teens to use their art to be active in their communities. Issues that we're all concerned about take on a different meaning when you're an artist. YAAW Talk is a podcast about them. You just can't beat the arts in Toledo, it's the topic happening around the clock. YAAW Talk. Hello, welcome to YAAW Talk, the podcast about topics that mean the most to young artists. Episode 1 covers the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Although public services remain closed and futures remain weird, that doesn't mean young artists have stopped making. If anything, their creativity affirms the importance of independent art, especially during uncertainty. Let's hear what they have to say.
On the topic of art in quarantine, do you think that quarantine has allowed you to make more or less art?
Honestly, I think for me, I normally do art when I have, a lot to do and I have a break. With quarantine, I feel inspired to do stuff, but I'm not doing it as frequently as I would do if there were normal circumstances.
I feel like I've become more a part, understanding of my art. My art has more meaning now that I actually have the time and the thought process to sit down and display myself, basically, and my thoughts and my emotions, my feelings through the art. Before, I would just draw something, just doodle or paint something because it was cute. But now, I feel like my art definitely has meaning.
Personally, it went back and forth. At first, I was like, oh, I have nothing to do. Might as well be productive and be creative. Because when quarantine wasn't going around, it was my junior year, and I was just so much stuff was going on. But then after I kept on seeing, the cases rising, or BLM starting, or just, life generally not getting better, I guess. It did at one point put me into a little slump. And not just artistically, I also had kind of a social decline, I guess. I didn't really want to talk to people, which is odd. I wasn't really happy, which is probably normal for everyone at this point. Y'all definitely helped get me becoming creative more.
I think I say about both, because some artists are even big artists are unmotivated to create art because they're a big funk about what's going on around them, and they're more focused on things around them, or more focused on their own physical or mental health. Or it could be a more positive way of people who can branch out to get new ideas and get new prompts, or get new ideas from the outside world or from people around them.
I don't know if it's about more or less. I guess it's just different for me because right now I'm gonna be a senior, and so I'm really thinking about portfolio because I want to go to architecture school. But I would say a lot of the art I've been doing recently is just smaller projects. I've been doing embroidery because it keeps my hands occupied. I don't know, a lot of my art recently has just been smaller because it's harder to get motivated, and so to be able to just get something done is really nice. And then also just a lot of it is about just kind of distracting myself or passing the time because I have a lot more time than I had on my hands.
These times are really different for us, and we don't have the same inspiration, the same motivation that we would normally have. So anything that we can do now that keeps us sane, I think, is anything that helps,
Yeah, it was nice, at the beginning of quarantine, when, you really couldn't see anyone. I was making my friends, I bought, years ago, I bought this, 10-pack of these mini canvases, and so I would just make them for my friends and drop them off, and it was just a different way to, connect with them than just, video calls that feel very static, I guess.
So the art that you have made during quarantine, or the art that you will make during quarantine, how do you want people to feel about that?
The actual art that I don't mind putting out into the world or onto social media is definitely art that is talking about all of these issues about corona, politics, and BLM. When they see my art, I want them to be able to see my opinion on the topic instantly, but not feel as if they have to agree with me.
I want them to feel better, feel like not to give up, or just see like there is a light at the end of the road for justice for that, not for them, but for everybody. And there is good things coming, no matter what, even through all the hard times. Even at times I am very negative and very like all the time, but there is positive things on the way, even through all this crap that's going on.
I want people to feel like this happened. There was a lot going on, but we are and were able to get through this pandemic, and that the coronavirus did happen.
Like, definitely, like, the thing I just turned in for the zine, like, it's about kind of current events, and more of the stuff I've been doing for YAAW has been about that. But I'm also just trying to think right now kind of about what I was doing before, which is just kind of about architecture, and so I'm trying to get, like, just figure out, like, how to show a range. This project has actually been helpful because I'm in the photography group where we're doing the photo essay, and so I'm thinking about how I can use some of the pictures I've been taking and like combine them and make them more interesting for that.
When we first heard about the virus, before it was found in the US, did you ever expect it to be as bad as it is now?
Not really. I didn't even expect it to reach America. I don't know why, but I was just blindsided. Like, oh, well, it got here. I never expected it to hit as hard as it did. I never expected it to change the way we go to school, change our daily lives, basically. I feel like no one really knows what's going on and how to prevent it because it never got this bad before.
I heard about it pretty early, and it was on my mind pretty early. I don't know, I really didn't think about it becoming a pandemic and coming here and like affecting life this much.
No. If people took it seriously, instead of saying it as a joke, like, I've seen all this stuff on the internet, it's like, oh, it's a joke, and made people, of course, like, having racial jokes about it, like, what's going on, like, it's pretty pathetic and stupid. Instead of just doing that and taking it seriously, like, I don't think it would have just got this bad. And even now, like, our government and the higher power and everything take it more seriously. It could be less deaths and less people being sick, but it is what it is.
I'm a special case, so when Corona was first in the Chinese news, it was back in December actually, and they were saying how this might be really dangerous to everyone. But I'm not Chinese, but my friend who's a foreign exchange student from China, she told me about it. And then 1 month later in January, everyone's like, oh my gosh, the Wuhan virus. And then 2 months later, America basically crumbled apart. I kind of saw it coming, but I guess it was more like constantly seeing the numbers rising, constantly being reminded that like there are dumb people in the world and they won't put on masks, or people are getting upset at the fact that we had quarantine when the government's trying to protect us, not like take away our freedom or something like that.
How do you feel about online schooling?
I think, like a lot of people, I'm having very conflicted feelings. Like, my mom is a teacher, and, like, so I'm worried more for her health than my health in terms of going back. Because to me, it's like, I'm willing to make that sacrifice for kind of the social interaction. Like, I really thrive off of these activities. I do speech, and, like, the idea of not doing, like, the competitions, like, it's probably why I have all my friends, and we all do this activity together every week. It's, like, thinking about not doing that stuff is really disappointing, and, like, not seeing people at school. But at the same time, I think it's valid to want to go back, but I think there is sort of a selfish element to it, especially without regulations of masks and social distancing. People just are going to get sick and people are going to die, and so it's figuring out how to balance all of those thoughts.
For the last, like, 3 months of school year, it was pretty easy, not really hard. If I could also take on, like, answering YAAW work, it's really, really weird, and I don't like it as much, but I still enjoy it even though it's at home. Because, like, people like new apprentices, like, first years think like, oh, it's on the internet, like, this is how it is. Like, this isn't how it is. It's, like, really different in person, and it's way more fun.
I don't like online schooling whatsoever, but with quarantine and having to stay in the house, I really didn't have a problem with that so much because I am an introvert, so I don't really go out and do much anyway. But quarantine wasn't really so bad. It got really boring at some times, but the online schooling for me was the worst part of quarantine.
During this pandemic, what are some ways in which your life has changed?
Well, a lot of people, like, on half of the argument practically everyone is wearing a mask now to everywhere. It's like becoming the normal. And the other half, people are like trying to refuse that things are changing, that socially distancing isn't going to be forever. But yeah, life has certainly changed. Like currently right now, this social distancing, remote learning, remote working from home. I feel that life has changed forever in many different ways, even when this virus, eventually we do find some more permanent way to dealing with it, like a vaccine or just follow social distancing to the letter, that life will change.
Well, for one, less seeing people, of course. Like, I've seen some people, but not as much as before. Stop going to school, of course. I can't meet up in, like, family groups, see them much, and wear a mask. And so, like, a lot of violations of different rules, like, everywhere.
Before this virus, I was very introvert. I've been practicing like social distancing before this virus. Like if I didn't have to go out, I wouldn't go out too much. Like yeah, I'll go to a party or whatever one night, but like that's it for the week for me. My mom is a very extroverted person. Like, she teaches public relations. She's a very social person. I remember when the virus first started and the Governor DeWine issued the stay-at-home order and stuff. Like, she was like, "Man, this sucks." You know, it sucks for them. I get that, but at the same time, if you want to make this virus go away, like, we all want it. I'm confident I can speak for everyone that we all want this virus to go away as fast as possible and go back to normal. But like, to do that, I feel like you just got to suck it up and bear with the times and how to deal with them.
In this episode, YAAW apprentices discuss the overreaching effect of the current pandemic and how it has affected and changed youth, their emotions, opinions, practices, and outlooks. This podcast was made to amplify the voices of youth, especially those in the art community, and to promote critical thinking to help process the current situation. Tune in next episode to hear young artists' perspective on the global social movement and the current civil unrest. Thanks for listening.